Hey nerds, Todd Simmons coming back at you with a little more Toddomation. This is the second video in this series dedicated to Postman. Today we're going to talk about collections. I'm going to show you how to create a workspace. Not going to go real deep into the workspaces. It's a nice way to divide things up inside of a workspace and then to add the collections to the different workspaces. I like to use them just because it kind of separates pieces of the GUI for me into the different workspaces. That way I don't have all these collections at once. But, you know, it's open to individual preference. So let's go ahead and get started looking at the collections. So the first thing, let me go ahead and just open up my Postman. And when you open Postman, it's going to come to your default workspace, which is my workspace, as you can see it right here. I'm going to create two different workspaces for this video, one for Meraki and then another one for Arista CV-CUE. So next to my workspace, it's really simple. We just select New, and then we come down over here, Workspace. I'm going to create a blank workspace. You can use templates or some other things that Google and Postman more specifically provide to you. We're just going to hit Next. Now I'm going to name it, and I'm going to call this Meraki Toddomation. And right now it's just for me, it's personal. The thing with workspaces, if you're wondering, well, what do people use workspaces for? It's mostly collaboration. I'm going to use it just to separate my collections. But if you have a team, you have multiple people working on APIs, you can create a workspace. It's like a container for integration, but instead of calling it a container, they call it a workspace. And then inside that workspace, you can have multiple projects that are kind of linked together inside the workspace. But like I said, for me, I'm just using it to separate my collections as far as how they display inside the GUI. So I'm going to leave it only me. And I'm going to go to create. As you can see, it immediately puts you back into whichever workspace you just created. I'm going to create another workspace. It's a blank workspace again. And then I'm going to call this Arista Toddomation. Once again, only me again. I'm going to create it, and it immediately puts you into the workspace that you just created. If you want to look at all of your workspaces, it's pretty simple. Down next to workspace, you can come down here to the bottom and you can see the workspaces that you've created. Obviously, I have 3. So once you have your workspace, and it's important to create the workspace first, because if you want to separate your collections based on workspace, if you don't, if you only want my workspace, and when I say my, I mean your workspace, obviously, and you want to add the collections here, that's totally up to you. Once again, it's up to it's your preference. So that's creating the workspaces. Pretty simple for what we're doing today. So now we're going to jump into collections. So first of all, why use collections? Well, a lot of the work has already been done for you if you're OEM. And in this case, Arista, more specifically the Cloud Vision Connected Unified Edge, which is the CV-CUE, and then the Meraki Dashboard that I'm going to show you. They maintain them for you. So any of the API calls, they're already in the collections. Okay. Plus, there's a couple of nice what I call cheaters inside Postman if you do want to start writing code. But I'm not going to cover the cheaters and how to turn collections into Python. That'll be another video. Okay. Also with the collections, you can store your variables inside the collections that's inside your workspace. So, you know, let's say you've got a token or username or password, different things. It allows you to actually store it in the workspace. And it's a GUI. Some people don't like the CLI. Some people, you know, don't want to start doing the requests or the Meraki plugin for Python. And this is just a lot easier way to do it. It's still automation. It's just through the GUI. Okay. So the first thing that I want to look at is we're going to start with Meraki. And in Meraki, the way that they list things inside Postman is a little confusing sometimes. But let's find out how to search first for a collection. So if you're in your Meraki dashboard, okay, you can come right here, and you don't have to be in a particular organization, you don't have to be in a particular network. There's this little question mark up over here. This question mark is obviously the help feature, but if you click on the help feature, you'll see down here the API documentation. Okay, so I'm going to click on the API documentation, and it's going to bring up the developer.cisco.com website with their dashboard API. So this is where you would start, whether you're doing it in Python with requests, whether you're doing it in Python with the Meraki plugin. But what I want to show you is how to look at the Postman information. So if we come down here on the left and we scroll all the way down, you'll see this Postman collection link. Okay, we're going to click on that link. That's actually going to open up a different website. It's not going to Postman itself. It's actually going to go stay in the developer site. And as you can see, it comes up the dashboard API and Postman. So the APIs are APIs. Right? Postman is just the what piece of software you're using to run the APIs. So as you can see in here, we have some options when it comes to Postman collections right here. We have a Meraki public workspace, which means you could do all of this from a web page on the internet. And then it says dashboard API v1, dashboard API v0. Obviously, the v1 is newer. It's going to bring you to that particular version. As you can see, it brings us into the v1, which is exactly what we clicked on. And this one is the minor release of 44, and then it's still the .0. So that's one way to get here through the Meraki dashboard. Now, I want to show you something else, and there's a reason that if you're looking for the Meraki information that I like going through the Meraki dashboard. We could also come to Postman. Now, this is just postman.com. Obviously, I've signed in. You do have to have an account in order to use this. But we can actually have a search feature here in Postman. So if I do a search for Meraki, and because this is a video about collections, I actually want to filter it based on collections. This is where it gets a little bit confusing, right? So Meraki Workspace 1.7, Meraki Workspace 1.9. Notice we don't even see the version that the Meraki dashboard linked us to in here at all. We're not seeing the 1.44 listed in here at all. That's why I don't like going through the search feature specifically for Meraki. I like to do the search from the Meraki dashboard, which will bring you here. So now that we're actually here, what we want to do is we want to install the collection. Okay, I'm not going to talk about using the collection. That's the next video. But if we want to install the collection, so notice there's a public option here. That means that it's not an option, that it's public, right? The Meraki releases this to everybody. So I'm actually going to click the Run in Postman. And what that does is it brings up an option so we can do web to fork or Postman desktop app to import. That's the one that we're going to use. Hopefully you've already installed the Postman app. That was the previous video to this one. So I'm going to click on it. And it immediately comes up and says, all right, import collection. Now, this is why we created the workspaces first. So I'm actually going to select the Meraki Toddomation, and then I'm going to select import. So as you can see right now, we're in Chrome. It's doing the actual import, and it's putting it in my account. And this is the really cool thing about the collections is it's going to follow you when you install the collection. No matter what computer you're on, as you know, we just did a video on installing it on multiple computers. Because it's inside your account, your Postman account, any collections that you install on your account is going to follow you wherever you go. So you get a new computer, when you sign back in, all of your collections and workspaces are going to be there. Now, when we look at this, it took us out of Chrome. So I just clicked on Chrome. Notice I'm back at Chrome. And we're not in Chrome. It immediately opened it up. We're still here if we want to go to Chrome. I'm going to go ahead and close this Meraki dashboard tab out at this particular point. Okay. And I'm going to open up my Postman. So here's my Postman. As you can see, we're in Meraki Toddomation, and here is my collection. So at this point, it's installed. It tells you the version, when it was last updated. Here, if it has the links to the documentation, if you have questions, want to know what you need to do in order to actually run the APIs, and then a link for the complete documentation here. So let's say you installed it and you're like, oh man, I didn't really want to install that particular collection. It's really simple. You can come up to where it says Meraki Dashboard API. You see the 3 dots right here. If you click on the 3 dots, it's going to bring up the menu, and you can click delete. So it's going to take it. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to delete it? We're going to click delete, and we get a confirmation that deleted. Now, it's not actually deleted. It's just no longer in that workspace. If you wanted to undo it over here, you could actually come down here to trash. Now, this is, even though we have Postman installed, a lot of this is actually web-based, that it's coming in all the storage is web-based. So notice we have this little line down here at the bottom, and if I click on trash right here, you can see I just deleted the Meraki dashboard. So if you're like, oh man, didn't really want to do that, you can restore it, or you can delete it forever from here. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And now it's gone, right? I mean, there's no way for me to do it. So now I can go back to my workspace and my collection is gone. So the technical term for what we just did was we created a fork of that particular collection. Now, the nice thing about creating that fork is if Meraki has an update, they do something new with it, it's actually going to alert you that a change has been made or there's an update to that particular version. And that's installing the collection there for Meraki. So let's move on to the next one. We're going to do one specifically for Arista, more specifically the CV-CUE inside Arista. So we're going to go back into Chrome. We've got our website, and instead of Meraki, we're going to search for Arista. Okay. And specifically, we want to look at the collections, so I'm going to filter it based on collections, and you see we've got this one. Okay, so I'm going to click on it. And what we want to do with the Arista CV-CUE collection is we want to create a fork. So a fork is just a Git term for make a copy. So what we do is we come next to Arista CV-CUE right here. We click on the 3 dots again, and we say create a fork. Okay, so the fork label is going to be whatever you name it. Now the workspace, notice it already knows the workspaces. I don't want to put it in that one. I'm going to create it I'm going to create the fork, and I want to put it in my workspace that I created specifically for Arista, and I'm going to call this Arista CV-CUE. Okay, notice I get an option, watch original collection. That way, if there's an update, I get to find out about it. And then I hit fork collection. Okay, and we come down, it says fork created, and we're still inside our Chrome. But when we come back over here to Postman, I'm still in the Meraki Toddomation workspace. I'm going to change that by clicking the down arrow next to Workspaces, and now I'm going to go to the Arista, and notice here's my collection. Okay, so creating the fork in my account on the Postman website immediately allowed me to see it in Postman that I have installed locally on my Mac. Once again, if we wanted to remove it, we just come up here with the dots, okay, scroll down, and we select delete. I'm not actually going to delete this one because we did it on the first one. Okay, but if you wanted to delete that collection, that's exactly how you would do it. Okay, so that's it for installing collections. It doesn't matter if it's Meraki, if it's Arista with CV-CUE, what you're looking to do. All of the collections are basically installed the same way. Once you have the collection installed, then you're actually going to be able to start using them I'm going to end this video here because we've created the workspaces and we've installed 2 different collections, one for Meraki and one for Arista. So that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any video requests, please let me know. And until next time, we'll talk to y'all later, nerds. Bye.